Hello, bonjour à toutes et à tous. Thank you so much for joining me for today's member engagement session and Q&A. As a proud CPA and the CEO of CPA Canada, I'm pleased to see that so many members are eager to invest in the future of our profession, both over the past year and as evidenced by the unbelievable turnout for today's session. Thank you. Before we start, I'd like to recognize that I'm speaking to you from Toronto, Ontario, the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. Through this virtual platform, I'm speaking to members from right across Turtle Island, which is home to a vast array of Indigenous people and cultures. We are privileged to live, work, and play on this land that they have called home, and we now call home, since time immemorial. Juin est le mois national de l'histoire autochtone. Prenons le temps de réfléchir aux relations passées et présentes de notre pays avec les Premières Nations qui habitent ces terres, qui en sont les gardiennes et qui les protègent pour les générations à venir. I'm absolutely thrilled to have this opportunity to engage with you directly about the future of the profession, CPA Canada's unique role in support of members, and how your voice is helping to shape that future. One thing that we continue to hear is how important it is for you to be a part of CPA Canada, to be part of a wider national and international community of CPAs. After all, the accounting profession isn't just provincial or even national, it's global. Vous faites partie d'un écosystème financier sans frontières. Selon vos commentaires, vous trouvez important que nous écoutions vos points de vue, que nous soyons ouverts et transparents, et que nous vous informions régulièrement des faits nouveaux. Votre opinion compte pour nous. Today, I'm going to share a brief update about our cross-country consultations and how that work is informing strategic decisions here at CPA Canada. I'm also going to lay out what you can expect to see in the coming months, including news about the work that we are doing to ensure that members from Ontario and Quebec can remain a part of the national network of CPAs. The rest of this session today will be focused on your questions. And I'm extremely grateful that my esteemed colleague and CEO of the Global Accounting Alliance, Jim Nafo, has taken his time from his international work to moderate our session today. In January, we conducted a quick independent poll to hear your feedback and help guide our strategic direction. And the results were resounding. 89% of members said they believe in the importance of a strong national accounting body, and 91% said they want to be consulted. We also asked members for feedback on the subjects of most interest to them for their ongoing consultations. L'intérêt était unanime à l'échelle du pays et le sondage a confirmé que la majorité des membres du Québec et de l'Ontario veulent continuer à faire partie de l'organisation nationale après le départ de leur ordre, le 20 décembre. Ces résultats ont motivé d'autres consultations qui permettront d'orienter l'évolution de notre organisation nationale et de placer les services aux membres au cœur de notre mission. In March, CPA Canada commissioned an independent survey of members to determine your wants and needs from a national organization. Feedback from the original poll helped provide the input to the subjects that we included in the survey. More than 12,000 of you, 12,000 CPAs responded to our survey, and more than half of those, over 6,000 of you, asked to be further a part of future focus groups and consultations. We truly appreciate your ongoing involvement and support. Vous avez répondu en grand nombre et confirmé que la perspective des membres doit être notre inspiration dans tout ce que nous faisons. C'est pourquoi nous continuons de vous consulter dans des groupes de discussion et des séances comme celle d'aujourd'hui. And we're very encouraged to hear that members want CPA Canada to lead, to communicate, and to continue to engage them on the future of our profession. We learned that most of you benefit from membership dues being sponsored by your employers, and a significant majority of you with employer-funded membership believe that this support should persist. Nous avons aussi appris qu'une grande majorité des membres, 78%, occupent un poste où le titre de CPA est un atout ou une obligation, ce qui confirme l'importance du rôle de CPA pour maintenir l'intégrité du titre. And most importantly, while it was already clear that CPAs resoundingly believe in a strong national body, we wanted to know why. What is it that we do that members consider absolutely the most essential? And we were very heartened to see that activities respondents told us they consider the most essential for a national accounting body are also those that we proudly provide today for members. You told us that your top priority is maintaining the CPA brand's integrity. And we are the only organization in Canada wholly dedicated to supporting our members, upholding and uplifting the global credibility of the designation in the way only a national body can. La profession comptable n'est pas seulement provinciale ou nationale, elle fait partie d'un écosystème financier dynamique et intégré à l'échelle mondiale. We work for you. We advocate on behalf of you, and we are accountable to you, the members. We recognize and understand the clear distinction between our role as the national body and that of the provincial regulators. What's important to note is that we are not a regulator, nor do we want to be. We want to focus on you, the member. The regulators have a mandate to protect the public. CPA Canada's role is to strengthen the profession and help members succeed in their journeys as CPAs. As a national body, we are uniquely positioned to do this work in two central ways. First, we actively hear from members and lead with impact and influence at national and international tables. Second, we share the most robust, current, and in-depth knowledge from those tables with members through our exclusive guidance, research, and thought leadership. No surprise to us, the next activity of importance to you was national consistency and rigor across standards and education. Accounting standards form the basis of the Canadian and international business landscape. We proudly support the independent standard-setting process in Canada. Même si les normalisateurs de Canadiens obtiennent davantage d'indépendance comme leur homologue international, CPA Canada continuera de fournir du personnel et d'une expertise technique au Conseil canadien et de normalisation et de surveillance, selon la recommandation du Comité d'examen indépendant de la normalisation au Canada. And separately from the standard-setting process itself, CPA Canada provides you with exclusive, valuable national standards guidance so that you can be accountable and competent in your work. CPA Canada will also continue to own and steward the intellectual property of the CPA Canada Handbook. We also play a central role in developing a national, uniform pre-certification process, consistent educational standards, and the profession's rigorous Common Final Exam, or CFE. So whether you're in Charlottetown, Victoria, Iqaluit, or even here in Toronto, you can have confidence in the same standards and passing requirements right across the country. But our work to support continuous learning doesn't stop there. Nous offrons aussi la formation post-agrément dans les domaines où les membres peuvent bénéficier de notre expérience nationale et internationale. Par exemple, le programme fondamental d'impôt et le congrès l'unique. Ces formations sont une formidable occasion de réseautage avec des pairs et des professionnels de partout au pays. We heard from you that the third area of importance is membership recognition, which is very linked to the first. You told us that you value what it means to be recognized globally as a Canadian CPA and the professional mobility it affords. We know that becoming a CPA isn't just a career choice. It's a membership to a well-respected, borderless, and increasingly limitless accounting profession. At the global level, professional accountancy organizations collaborate on a nation-to-nation basis, and we take our role in that dialogue very seriously. CPA Canada est le représentant national désigné dans les accords de réciprocité internationaux et le porte-parole des CPA canadiens auprès d'organisations influentes comme la Global Accounting Alliance, International Federation of Accountants et la Fédération internationale des experts comptables et commissaires aux comptes francophones. Through our voice in global conversations, CPA Canada is actively enhancing the profile, visibility, and influence of Canadian CPAs in the borderless profession. Next, we are invigorated that members appreciate our advocacy with national officials. As many of you will know, we have been vocal on the need for tax reform, both comprehensive and specific to a number of recent tax changes. We successfully lobbied for changes to bear trusts, the underutilized housing tax, and we continue to advocate for a comprehensive review of the tax system overall. Nos recommandations s'appuient sur les commentaires de nos différents comités et de nos partenaires des provinces, des territoires et des Bermudes. Et grâce à notre position unique, nous pouvons les transmettre aux organismes fédéraux, entre autres à l'Agence du revenu du Canada et au ministère des Finances. And tax is just one of the files that we are engaged on at the federal level. Our work also includes appearing before commissions, House of Commons committees, and the Supreme Court of Canada. Representation by CPA Canada is routinely sought out on areas including financial and sustainability reporting, anti-money laundering, audit and assurance, and now AI governance. And to round out the top 5 areas that you deem essential, you told us that access to accounting resources is critical CPA Canada work. En tant que comptable, nous devons offrir à nos clients des connaissances poussées, à jour et de premier ordre. Une position unique de conseillère de confiance et de leader auprès des gouvernements et d'organisations nationales et internationales permet à CPA Canada d'offrir à ses membres des ressources et des outils exclusifs. The national standards guidance we provide to members is the exclusive work of a national body. Through our close work with national and international standard-setting boards, we develop and deliver a full range of tools and resources. Nos documents de réflexion, de recherche et d'orientation primés, notamment sur la durabilité et l'intelligence artificielle, ont bénéficié de nos perspectives et de nos partenariats nationaux et internationaux. Sur tous les plans, CPA Canada travaille à promouvoir vos intérêts et à vous procurer l'information et les ressources dont vous avez besoin pour réussir. And through this important work, we enhance the recognition of the Canadian CPA brand globally, helping to trailblaze a diverse and future-ready path for the next generation of accountants. Maintenant qu'elle a un mandat clair de ses membres et comprend ce qui compte pour eux, CPA Canada travaille à créer un modèle d'avenir pour mieux répondre aux besoins en évolution des CPA et de la profession. Les efforts de transformation en cours sont considérables. C'est pourquoi nous devons établir des priorités. And we know that members in Ontario and Quebec want to stay a part of the national body. Let me reassure you that work is well underway to ensure that CPAs in those provinces can maintain their association with CPA Canada before the regulatory bodies in those provinces withdraw on December 20th, just 6 months away. Coming this fall, we will roll out a model for members in Ontario and Quebec to ensure there is time for CPAs to adjust. The withdrawal of 2 of the regulators has presented challenges. There's no disputing that. But it has also created a valuable opportunity to consult with members about how we can best adapt to your ever-evolving needs and our changing global environment. We will continue to focus on ensuring that we enable and empower our members to be ready to meet the needs of the future and thrive. We believe that we must build tomorrow together. Your feedback is instrumental in our next steps to refine our service offerings and increase member value, enhancing flexibility and choice for all Canadian CPAs. Comme je l'ai dit plus tôt, l'environnement de notre profession et le travail de nos membres évoluent. Nous devons nous positionner le mieux possible pour soutenir votre réussite aujourd'hui et demain. We know you want to have a strong voice, both here in Canada and with your international colleagues. That means our work needs to increasingly ensure that in a global and fast-paced world getting ever faster, our profession continues to hold the coveted role of trusted advisor and leader. La solide réputation et les bonnes relations de CPA Canada favorisent un dialogue international au sein de notre profession. Les CPA canadiens bénéficient ainsi d'un accès aux hautes sphères de la gouvernance et du savoir et de l'influence qui en résultent. We are proud of the mandate that you have given to us and are excited to continue to do this important work on behalf of Canadian CPAs, now and into the future. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to answering your questions. And to facilitate the Q&A portion of this session, it is now my honor to welcome our moderator, Jim Knafo, the CEO of the Global Accounting Alliance and fellow Ontario CPA. As head of the International Alliance of 10 leading professional accounting bodies, representing 1.4 million accountants in more than 180 countries around the world, Jim is an influential leader and collaborator who embodies the ideals of the Canadian CPA. I'm proud to have Jim as a colleague, and I'm delighted to welcome him to the stage.
Thanks, Pamela.
You bet. Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome and hello to everyone. And on behalf of the Global Accounting Alliance, I want to express my gratitude for the dedication CPA Canada shows to knowledge sharing and collaboration on international issues important to the accounting profession. I know that Canadian CPAs have many questions for you today, so without further ado, I want to get to as many as possible. Thanks to those of you that have already submitted questions along with your registration for the session. Many of the inquiries we received revolve around similar themes, and we have pulled out representative samples that we will get Pamela to address before we turn to live questions. The first question comes from Jeff Gatien, who asks, what is the plan to ensure Canada's reputation remains strong as a standard setter, which is critical for capital markets access and for the profession?
Well, thanks, Jeff, for that question. I think it's a really important one. And, you know, Canadians and Canadian CPAs are so well regarded by their international colleagues. Not only do we speak IFRS, but we speak 2 languages in Canada. We speak IFRS and we speak US GAAP. So our accountants here are really technically very deep in the field of accounting and standard setting. And you can often find one of our Canadian CPAs on many of the international standard setting boards, like the vice chair currently of the International Accounting Standard Setting Board. And so I think that we have to continue to really foster those strong ties. We have an excellent reputation here in Canada with our own standard setting boards here. as well as the amazing technical expertise and the staffing that resides in CPA Canada that provides the secretariat and the technical expertise to assist the independent standard setting boards so that they can do their great work. And we're really well known throughout the world for having the highest level of technical competence and depth in standard setting. So great question. Thank you very much, Jeff.
Yeah, and that's absolutely true. I can vouch for that being on the international scene.
Yeah.
I'm now going to turn to a topic that is near and dear to me: CPA representation on the global stage. Our question comes from Mark Oldershaw, who asks, we spent years strengthening the CPA brand, creating a single unified voice for the profession in Canada. That effort is now unwinding. How are the three organizations going to ensure that the profession has a clear, unified voice, both within Canada and on the global stage? And if differences arise, how do the three bodies ensure that the profession speaks with one voice?
Well, Mark, I think that's a really great question. And how I would answer that is that CPA Canada is the international representation at those international boards and committees and organizations like the Global Accounting Alliance, where you're CEO. I don't think that's going to change. And in fact, we will continue to consult across Canada as we look to gather in as many opinions on different topics and as many thoughts as possible so that we can take Canada to the world. So I'm really excited about that as an opportunity. And the way I often describe our role here at CPA Canada is a little bit like a donut. So if you think about the provinces as the ring around the donut, we benefit in Canada from such a diversity of geography, a diversity of industries, and different concentrations in different regions. And so it's really important to note that we ensure that we gather all of that information from right across the country, and then we synthesize that, we take it, and that's what forms the basis of how we report into international bodies. And so I really am excited to see that continue. We will ensure that that process continues and includes all the provinces, territories, and of course Bermuda as well.
Excellent. And I love your analogy because we Canadians are famous for our donuts. Our next question is from Christopher Rolfe, who asks, how are we enabling current and future CPAs to be more tech forward thinking, beyond Excel, and into AI and the advanced analytics now demanded from the profession?
Well, I think that's great, and that is an area where I would really like to be devoting a lot more resource and time because, of course, we need to make sure that our CPAs, both today and those that are going to be facing us in the future, are ready for that future and are embracing all that technology can offer. I know we're doing a lot of work. We're collaborating at the moment with international bodies on a series of papers on artificial intelligence, so that's really exciting work that's happening. As well as, you know, things like sustainability and other advancing topics. So I think that another piece that is a great element to that was the recommendation that came out in the new competency map that was issued, I guess, 2 years ago now. Wow, that's gone fast. That CPA Canada led with in partnership with all of the provinces. And that work came out with a competency map that identified exactly those elements and attributes that we need in our accountants of the future and today's accountants to get more skilled in and build their capacities in. So I'm really excited and delighted that we are at the forefront. Our research and guidance work that we do at CPA Canada and collaboration with different international organizations and different professional bodies around the world really helps us stay at the forefront and even lead. So it's an opportunity for us to really shine in those elements and areas. So great question. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. The next question is all about the integrity of the CPA brand and comes from Tejveer Pandir. What can we do to make the CPA designation more valuable and prestigious for clients and the general public?
Another great question, Tejveer. Thank you. And I think that's really important for us to recognize as a profession. We are a profession of CPAs, not marketers. And I think, frankly, we need to do a better job of demonstrating all of the great qualities and attributes that our CPAs have and how useful and transferable those skills are right across different sectors of the economy. And so I really believe that the answer to the previous question about embracing those new technologies, embracing sustainability attributes are really relevant and valuable as we move forward as a profession. I think today has never been a better time to be a CPA. There is so much opportunity out there, and I think that our profession can really demonstrate leadership in really turbulent times, changing times, but also times when business itself is changing and governance is changing, and we have an opportunity to lead, and I think we should do so, and we should tell our story. We're often, you know, we're Canadian, we're nice,
so
we don't boast, we don't, you know, we're not the big loud voices in the room, but I think we can do a better job at explaining to potential newcomers to the profession, as well as our business colleagues more broadly, just how amazing our skills are and how amazing our CPAs are.
Absolutely, and the Canadian CPA is very well respected on the international scene, as you very well know. As you can imagine, we received a host of questions related to retaining membership in CPA Canada. There was this from Karen Johnston. As an Ontario CPA, and you know I'm an Ontario CPA as well.
As am I.
As are you. Is there a way to opt in for membership with CPA Canada? And if not, how does this impact our access to information and resources published by CPA Canada?
Well, Jim, I mean, Karen, you said it. We have heard from not just Karen and Jim, myself, but from thousands at this point in time that you value your CPA Canada membership, and despite your regulator deciding to leave the Federation, you want to stay a part. And rest assured, we are doing so. So you will see coming in the fall options for people in Ontario and Quebec to continue their association and their connection to the national body, because we agree it's a really important thing.
That's interesting, because we also had a question from Joe Noguera, who said, why can't we be members of CPA Canada individually? So will this be an option for them?
Yes, this will be a new option. So just to kind of go back a little for members who may not be aware, Ontario and Quebec are organizational members of CPA Canada. So currently that means that if you're an organizational member as a regulator, you're automatically an individual member if you're a member in that province in good standing. When Ontario and Quebec leave the Federation in December, that's no longer the case. You drop out of membership of CPA Canada because they're no longer members. And therefore, it will be absolutely possible as an individual to belong to your national body, and we're looking forward to that. I plan to be member number 1, and I'm hoping you will be member number 2.
I will, and I think Joe will be member number 3.
Well, thanks, Joe. We look forward to seeing you on board.
We've also received a number of questions about retaining membership in 2 bodies. This question is from Francesca Alfano, who asks, est-ce qu'il y a des avantages à être membre de CPA Canada et CPA Québec, donc payer 2 cotisations?
Très bien. En un mot, oui, bien sûr. Nous avons des fonctions très différentes. Il y a une différence claire entre notre rôle d'organisation nationale et le rôle des ordres provinciaux. Il faut savoir que nous ne sommes pas une autorité de réglementation. Les autorités de réglementation, comme l'Ordre des CPA du Québec, ont pour mandat de protéger le public. L'adhésion aux ordres est obligatoire pour conserver votre titre. C'est clair. Comme je l'ai mentionné plus tôt, nous comprenons et appuyons le rôle des ordres provinciaux, mais nous savons qu'il est important pour les membres d'avoir une organisation nationale dont la seule mission est de répondre à leurs besoins. CPA Canada se consacre aux activités que vous attendez d'une organisation nationale. Seule une organisation nationale peut mener des activités qui renforcent et rehaussent la crédibilité mondiale de la profession. Dans une économie mondialisée, la force du nombre compte. Vous l'avez d'ailleurs exprimé dans vos commentaires des derniers mois. CPA Canada continuera d'être partenaire actif dans toutes les provinces et de faire valoir vos points de vue sur ces scènes nationales et internationale.
Merci. Une autre question de Pierre-Olivier Verdon, who asks, que compte faire CPA Canada pour s'assurer d'une proportion équitable du français dans toutes ses communications sur toutes ses plateformes?
Très bien, merci. Pour mes collègues comptables, voici des statistiques qui montrent notre attachement au bilinguisme. En 2023, seulement, nous avons traduit plus de 9700 documents qui représentent un total de plus de 7,7 millions de mots. Je suis sûre que ces documents ont été d'une grande utilité pour les ordres et leurs membres au Québec et ailleurs au pays. Nous offrons une vaste gamme de ressources de publications et d'activités de perfectionnement professionnel en anglais et également en français, bien sûr, et aussi une version française de Pivot, notre magazine primé. En plus de fournir des services en français au CPA canadien, CPA Canada a fourni la traduction française officielle des normes comptables internationales, y compris les normes IFRS. Nous montrons aussi notre engagement à être un chef de file mondial pour les CPA francophones par notre adhésion à la FIDEF.
Merci, Pam. I'd like to now open the floor to live questions. If you have one, please drop it into the chat and we'll try to get to as many as possible. Okay, so the first question, Pamela, comes from Joseph Truscott, who asks, there has been little said by CPA Ontario on why they specifically withdrew. Do you have any insights into why they did this without consulting with the membership?
Well, I can't speak to all of the whys. You would really be best served to ask your provincial regulator. However, what I can say is that CPA Canada values consultation. We want to hear from you, the members. We think it's really important to understand your needs and your wants and what's really important to you for the profession. You've clearly told us that you believe in a strong national professional body, and so we're here for you for that. And I think that that's really the most important thing, is that we will be consulting, and we have been consulting really since January with all our members, and I've heard from thousands of them individually, in fact, by this point, right across the country. And so that's a really exciting opportunity for us.
Thanks for that question. We've got another one now from Thomas Trainer. He asks, CPA Ontario functions as both a regulatory and member services body, while CPA Canada focuses solely on member services. How does CPA Canada view the benefits and challenges of having a dedicated member services body separate from regulatory functions? And how does it ensure members' needs are fully met?
Well, thanks for that question, Tom. I think that it's really important that we as a body focus solely on our members. So the regulators are, you know, their authority descends directly from government, and they have to abide by the regulations and the acts, the statutes that they are responsible to. CPA Canada is only responsible to you, the member. And so that is so important. And we are listening to you. We always have listened to our members, and we are doing so more closely and intentionally now that there is a change. And the business landscape, the global community, and certainly the profession here in Canada is undergoing quite a dynamic change. And I think it's so important that we continue to respond to the needs of the business community and the ecosystem of which we are such a fundamental part as CPAs and accountants. And I think only a national body can do that, that responds to the needs solely of its members.
Well, let me follow up on that question that Tom just asked, because we know internationally a lot of bodies are becoming much more member-centric. So how has CPA Canada taken steps to become more member-centric before December, both internally and externally?
Well, I think you're participating in a really good example right here. And in fact, with the survey, the poll that we've conducted, we've clearly heard from members. And so we are really focusing on those things that the members see as most important. So we just went through, or I just went through in my remarks, the top 5 that we've heard of. And we are really taking a data-driven lens, too, to make sure that what we are providing is of highest value to our members and make sure that we respond to their needs. And we are listening to the business community at large with our associations with different business communities, different fora, different opportunities to speak, and of course to listen, to really understand what's needed in the business community and how CPAs best respond to that.
Excellent. Thank you for allowing me to sneak my own question in there. Back to the live questions.
Cheating.
I know. This one's from Jean Laporte. An agreement was signed between CPA Canada and the provinces with respect to the education program. What other agreements have been signed to date? When can we expect further agreements to be signed to cover all other areas of collaboration?
Well, thanks for that important question, Jean. I think what I would start with, though, is to go back and say all of the provinces and territories in Bermuda together with CPA Canada signed a collaboration accord over 10 years ago, and that is the framework under which the whole profession works together as a national federation, and that's really exciting. That is what CPA Ontario and Quebec have decided to withdraw from. So that's the first part of that. The second piece is with respect to the education agreement. We had a tentative agreement that we reached in November, and pursuant to that, we are continuing to work with Ontario and Quebec on working through the issues to finalize agreements, which we still have yet to do, and we are working on that with them. To date, we have not created any further agreements with Ontario and Quebec. And what I'd like to do is reassure everyone that the collaboration accord is still in functioning and it's still working for the remaining PTBs and CPA Canada post December 20th. And so those agreements with Ontario and Quebec, we look forward to reaching conclusion on at some point in the near future.
Okay, thanks for that. And thank you, Jean, for that question. I was wondering the same thing. This next question is from Yvonne Shao. Is there any work in progress to increase the international recognition of the CPA Canadian designation? This will help Canadian CPAs to work more in the US and globally. I love this question.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, as I said in an earlier question, CPAs from Canada are considered so technically proficient, and because we speak both US GAAP and IFRS, we are in demand internationally, so it's wonderful. And CPA Canada negotiates the international agreements with different bodies like the GAA, and that ensures that our CPAs from Canada can hit the ground running and be accredited in those foreign jurisdictions right away, as well, especially with all of the immigration coming to Canada, those foreign qualified with high qualifications coming into Canada also equally can be recognized. You mentioned the US, so we just recently signed an agreement with AICPA CIMA, and there are other agreements forthcoming. We currently have 12 globally. We are working on others as we speak, and so I am really excited about that opportunity. And I would say that regardless, CPAs are in demand wherever they go and highly respected with instant credibility and recognition as Canadian CPAs.
Very true. Thank you for that question, Yvonne. And I'm an example of a Canadian CPA that benefits from the great reputation of the Canadian CPA profession. Our next question comes from Frank Kelly. Oh, I like this one. Is there any hope that the dispute between CPA Canada and Ontario Quebec organizations will be resolved so that the profession will remain unified? I know it's a tough question because it's not just you that has to answer it. It's a two-party thing. But what do you think?
It's a three-party thing.
It's a three-party thing, exactly.
So, you know, what I would always say is there is always a path back. There is always an opportunity to work together. And I would say, indeed, the intent is for CPA Canada to continue to work with all 13 provincial, territorial, and Bermudian bodies going forward. This is going to be working together in a different way, and we will have to see how things unfold. I would say there's always an opportunity. However, the regulators in Ontario and Quebec seem quite determined on their path to withdraw, and so we will have to work within that new way of working. Understood.
Thanks, Pamela. Cheryl forgive me for the mispronunciation, Wenensky Yolande asks, would this change have any potential implications for standards governance? such as PSAB, which focuses on public sector accounting standards?
Thank you for your question, Cheryl. I'm assuming the change you're referring to is the withdrawal by Quebec and Ontario, and I can answer no, it should have no change at all. So as you may know, all of our standard setting boards in Canada are independent. They're fully independent, including PSAB. And what is interesting is that CPA Canada houses the Secretariat and all of the expert staff that support those independent boards. And that certainly will continue. CPA Ontario and Quebec, in fact, have stated publicly that they will continue to support Canadian standard setting, and they will continue to fund CPA Canada or fund the standard setting boards to continue to do so as they do today.
Thanks, Cheryl, for that question, and sorry for mispronouncing your name. This next one's from Robert Pilling. As a CPA in Ontario and teaching students in Ontario, what will be the access to the CPA handbook on Kenosha?
Well, that's a great question, Robert, and that is one of the issues that we are working through right now. As you know, the CPA handbook is actually the CPA Canada handbook, and that intellectual property does belong to us. So that is a topic that's pretty hot right now, for sure, and there are issues that we are working out with our colleagues in Ontario and Quebec so that you will have access, ongoing access to the CPA Canada handbook. And I think, you know, that's critical for all of us professionals, including myself, sitting in Ontario and Quebec. And so we look forward to being able to reach some kind of a final agreement with those provinces.
Great. So stay tuned, Robert. It looks like good news might be on the way. This next question is from Amir Abbasi. Internationally, no one knows CPA Ontario or CPA Quebec. And so provincial disengaging with CPA Canada will result in loss of CPA identity at the global level. Like in the USA, the CPA from USA is well recognized as opposed to state-based designations. Any comments?
Well, that's a good one. So, you know, as I said, or I didn't say, but I will say now, Canada, we're a small country. Yeah. So we are 2% of global GDP, so we're not very big. But as you know, Jim, internationally, CPA Canada and Canadians with CPAs are extremely well respected, way above what a 2% portion would kind of
We punch
indicate.
Well above our weight.
We sure do. And so I think that's really important to note. And so I would say that Canadian CPAs are absolutely well respected. It is unfortunate for Ontario and Quebec that they are withdrawing, they're losing some of their influence because the voice of those regulators, at least, will no longer be heard. However, we will continue to engage right across the country as we attend and we still continue to advocate at those levels. And so, you know, as I said before, I'm going to be member number one at CPA Canada. I will continue to be a proud CPA Canada member, and I look forward to many, many of our Ontario and Quebec colleagues joining me in that.
Absolutely, and I'm member number 2.
Okay.
Our next question is from Sandra Mundy. I suspect that others outside of a direct membership in the profession are interested in the current happenings. What type of engagement has CPA Canada had with these interested bystanders and stakeholders, and what are you hearing from them?
Well, thanks for that question, Sandra, I don't know you. I shouldn't assume. So, you know, it is true, there has been a lot of interest from our securities regulators, our banking regulators, our governments, so both from the provincial as well as the federal level. And so we are really trying to inform them as best as we can about what's happening and how things are progressing and what the implications are of the changes and how they might impact on the Canadian ecosystem. Because again, you know, the accounting underlies everything that happens in business, and it affects capital markets and attractiveness of capital to Canada, attractiveness of the profession to newcomers. And so we need to make sure that we continue to communicate as much as we can with anyone who has an interest. And that's why it's so important that we continue to update, and we will certainly, as a result of today, update our frequently asked questions on our website so that we can continue to inform not just the members, but anyone who is interested in this situation.
That's great. And Sandra's certainly right, because the world is watching now to see what happens in Canada.
And it's a good point. Internationally as well, it's certainly been a topic of discussion, as you know, at international tables, with a little bit of I'm going to say disbelief because of the esteem in which CPA Canada is held globally. And so I know a number of different organizations are just kind of puzzled why this is happening and why now.
Yeah, fair enough. Our next question comes from Casey Lavin. Any cost increases anticipated for the CPAs in provinces that remain with CPA Canada?
That's an easy answer, and the answer is no.
Well, that's good news, Casey.
Yeah, so I would say that our CPA Canada's portion of the dues is $400 a member. It has been, I think, since 2018, long before my time at CPA Canada. We have no intention of raising that, and we are going to take steps to make sure that that doesn't happen. I think over time you could see inflation, but there's no significant change. There's no change at all, in fact, and we continue to engage with our provincial colleagues to talk through those issues and to reassure them that actually, no, we are not intending to change any of that.
Great. You know, we're getting so many good questions here.
Yeah.
Here we have another one from Gwendo Greenaway. On the CPA Ontario website, it says that CPA Ontario had 3 core principles that they needed to see included in the collaboration accord. The first is for direct oversight of CPA Canada. Please provide information on CPA Canada's view of this. I'm looking for a fuller understanding. And she sends her thanks.
Wow, Gwendo, that's a really good question. And yes, absolutely, there were 3 things from Ontario and Quebec in terms of before they issued their announcement. And in terms of direct oversight of CPA Canada, they, and I think this is public record, they wanted to eliminate individual members, fuller direct oversight of CPA Canada in terms of board, I guess, governance, no longer being an independent board. And here I'm going to just digress a little bit and talk about our board composition, because I think it's an important fact. So as part of the agreement nationally across all of our partners, there is an agreement that they already appoint board members to the CPA Canada board, but it is a fiduciary board that acts in the best interests of CPA Canada. So in fact, of our board composition, we have 2 members from Ontario, 2 members from Quebec, so the 2 together already make up 4 of the 12 board members. We have 1 from Alberta, 1 from BC, 1 from the rest of the Atlantic region, and 1 from together Manitoba and Saskatchewan. Okay. We then have 2 public members, so they're not CPAs. They bring some diverse skill sets to our board. And then we have a vice chair and a chair that are appointed by the board members. So already, Ontario and Quebec already had an outsized representation on our board, but they were looking for more direct control of CPA Canada's activities, what we were doing, et cetera. And we said, you know, that is a possibility. Let's explore it. However, we must, by our bylaws, we must consult with our membership, and that's a really important fact for us. We thought we had a path forward last May, and sadly, 5 days after all of the provinces in CPA Canada were together, they issued their announcements with no notice to any of us.
Remember that, yeah. Okay. Our next question comes from Venkatraman Gopan. Will there be one CFE exam for CY 2025, or one from each of the 2 regulators, Ontario, Quebec, and CPA Canada? A great question. I'm sure a lot of students are wondering that question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Venkatraman. So thank you very much, and I apologize if I missed your name. The goal, and certainly part of the announcement that was made in November with CPA Ontario, Quebec, and Canada, was to ensure that students would not be negatively impacted by this change. We wanted to make sure that everybody could be confident in pursuing their CPA designation, that they would not be impacted, because we know how important that is to students who want to get started on their careers, and we want them to be part of the CPA.
And they're already in the process.
And they're in the process, exactly. So the idea is for us to reach a final agreement, which we're in the process of doing with Ontario and Quebec, such that no one will be impacted with respect to the current education program.
Well, Venkatraman, I don't know if you're a student, but for any of the other students who may be watching, hopefully that gives you some comfort. Our next question comes from Max Karpunin. Do I have a choice to stay with CPA Canada and not staying with CPA Ontario? Can I still be employed in Ontario without CPA Ontario membership? I think even I know the answer to that one, but go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Max. I have to say I've had that exact question from hundreds of members at this point in time. And in fact, if you are a member of a provincial body, you must be a member of your provincial body. They're your regulator in order to maintain your letters. And then I didn't say if I'm employed in Ontario.
Yeah, can you still be employed without being a member of CPA?
Yeah, well, I guess it depends on your job is, whether that requires a designation or whether your role requires a designation. So as an example, if you're a public accountant and doing audits, you absolutely have to have your membership with CPA Ontario. And we look forward, Max, to you also joining, maybe as member number 3 with CPA Canada when we offer that.
Yeah, and I'm sure, Max, one of the things Pamela would want to get across is it's not about a choice of either CPA Ontario or CPA Canada. It's more a question of both, because I'm sure everybody here would want you to be a member of both organizations.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Our next question comes from Kevin Bomer. He asks, if members that aren't part of CPA Canada, such as Ontario and Quebec, can opt in separately, it would seem only fair that members of other bodies, such as Alberta or British Columbia, could opt out of CPA Canada separately and save some money from their dues. When will that be an option?
Well, Kevin, the rest of the provinces are valuing their membership as part of the collaboration accord, and they will continue to be part of CPA Canada, and so therefore your dues are not going to change.
Right.
And what's important to note is even for members in Ontario and Quebec, when they opt into CPA Canada, you're still going to be paying roughly the same amount of money.
Yeah, their dues aren't going to change either.
Yeah, that's the idea. Unless your provincial regulator changes their dues, we're certainly not planning to at CPA Canada. So I think that it's really important that you're part of both. And what we're hearing from most members, maybe a little differently from you, is that it was never about the money. Like $400 a member for what you get from CPA Canada is so important, and they're saying, well, we want to be part of that network, we want to be part of that national body, and so I hope you'll consider that staying is actually of benefit to you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think as a professional, the day you become a professional, you almost feel, at least I feel, a certain obligation to remain part of the profession. Mm-hmm. You know? Sure. We benefit from it when we come in, and we want to continue it while we're members and continue it even after we leave.
Well, and we provide, as we get later on in our careers,
of course,
we provide an opportunity to give back to that community, and also to show that, you know, where you can take that designation is amazing. And it still provides that credibility even later in our career, like you and I, Jim. It really provides that distinction that is so important as being a CPA. That really means something.
Yep, I always identify myself as a CPA whenever I go anywhere.
That's good.
Our next question comes from Vandana Venkatesh, and this is the last question.
Oh, wow.
What is the process to join CPA Canada? Ooh, what a great last question.
I love it. Vandana, thank you very much for that question. So I'm going to answer this in 2 parts. So one, right now, if you are part of your provincial body and you have your letters, it's automatic. You're a member of CPA Canada. In the fall, we're going to talk to members in Ontario and Quebec specifically about how you can maintain your connection and keep your connection with CPA Canada, so how you will be able to join separately, because it will no longer be an automatic process. So stay tuned. We are going to continue to open up opportunities for you to join us, and we're really excited to do so and to welcome you again to CPA Canada.
Number 4, I think we're at now.
Yeah.
Great. Well, we've run up to time, and it's now time to bring this session to a close. Thank you all for asking so many insightful questions today, many of which I've been thinking of myself. And thank you, Pamela, for addressing them with candor. I know we couldn't get to all of the questions, but the CPA Canada team assures me that they are combing through the remainder and will update the FAQs on the website with questions from today's session. With that, Pamela, I'll turn it over to you for your parting thoughts.
Thanks, Jim, for agreeing today to share the stage with me. I, too, would like to thank everyone out there for joining us today and for engaging with us throughout the consultation process, really since January. It's truly your voice and it's your profession. It's our profession. And I look forward to building the future together. Stay tuned for more from CPA Canada. It's coming to you. Thank you for joining and have a great rest of your day. Merci de votre participation et bonne fin de journée à tous. Merci.